Now to Duchess Kate paying tribute to her late mother-in-law, Princess Diana. Kate wearing Diana's favorite tiara at the royals' biggest bash of the year last night.
Queen Camilla is reportedly fuming after Catherine, Princess of Wales, was caught wearing one of Princess Diana's most treasured heirlooms. And royal insiders say this wasn't just a fashion choice, it was a bold statement. The priceless piece, once held close by Diana herself, carries deep emotional and historical weight. But what exactly triggered Camilla's explosive reaction? Was it jealousy, fear of being overshadowed, or something far more personal? This royal fashion moment has sparked whispers throughout the palace, and the drama unfolding behind closed doors is nothing short of jaw-dropping. The night a tiara shook the palace. It was meant to be just another elegant evening at Buckingham Palace, an annual state banquet set against the grandeur of one of Britain's most iconic royal settings. The date? June 2025. Diplomats, royals, and world leaders gathered beneath glittering chandeliers, ready for speeches, wine, and smiles that never crack. Everything was running like clockwork. Until Princess Catherine walked in. She didn't just enter the room, she changed it. Heads turned, not just because she looked regal in her gown, but because of what sat atop her head. The lover's knot tiara, a masterpiece of pearls and diamonds. But more than that, it was a tiara soaked in emotion, memory, and myth. It once belonged to Princess Diana, and seeing it that night wasn't just striking, it was haunting. Whispers floated instantly through the room. Yes, Catherine had worn this tiara before, but this night felt different. The energy in the palace shifted. It wasn't just the jewelry, or the fact that Catherine looked every bit the modern queen. It was what that tiara represented, a direct link to a woman whose memory still casts a long shadow over the House of Windsor. For those paying attention, it was clear. Catherine wasn't just attending, she was declaring something. Whether intentional or not, the timing, the guests, the grandeur, it made the tiara feel like a symbol of Diana's legacy, of Catherine's rising prominence, and possibly of something the palace never openly speaks of: quiet rivalry. Not long after, Queen Camilla entered the hall, graceful as ever, dressed to perfection, her own tiara perched carefully on her styled hair. But those who watched closely noticed it, just a flicker, a momentary pause in her stride. Her eyes met Catherine's, and then quickly darted away. Her smile didn't falter, but it didn't feel the same. That's the thing about royalty. Everything is surface-level perfection, but beneath it, emotions, history, and silent messages swirl. Observers whispered that Camilla's reaction wasn't just discomfort, it was personal. That tiara didn't just belong to Diana. It belonged to an era, a woman, and a love story that once divided the monarchy. To see it now, on the woman the public so often compares to Diana, and on a night this public, stirred more than just memories. It stirred ghosts. And though the dinner went on, champagne poured, violinists played, the atmosphere never fully returned to ease. The tension lingered. Behind every toast and every forced smile was the question nobody dared ask aloud. Why now? Because in the world of royalty, jewelry isn't just decoration, it's a strategy, it's history. And sometimes it's war without words. And for Queen Camilla, seeing that tiara gleam once more wasn't just unsettling. It was a reminder that no matter how many titles she holds, some legacies in that palace still outrank her. But what made that tiara's presence so unsettling that it shook the palace? Stay with us to find out. The crown that still belongs to Diana. Buckingham Palace has hosted centuries of grand affairs, but few nights have whispered as loudly as June 13, 2025. And it wasn't the state dinner menu or the world leaders in attendance that captured the room. It was the return of something deeper, something sacred, The lover's knot tiara, once Princess Diana's signature, glittering once again, this time on the head of Princess Catherine. But to Queen Camilla, it wasn't just a tiara, it was a silent echo of everything she had tried to move beyond. To the world, the lover's knot is a jewel, timeless, elegant, and dazzling with diamonds, but within royal walls, it is a symbol carved from pain and memory. It was Diana's armor during the hardest years of her life. She wore it not just to dazzle cameras, but to hold herself tall during moments of heartbreak. And that story, the heartbreak, the quiet grace, the strength, it all lives inside the metal and stones. So when Catherine appeared in that tiara, under lights, in front of cameras, on a night watched across the globe, it wasn't just beautiful, it was powerful. For Camilla, it was a moment heavy with meaning. She knew the public would see more than just a royal heirloom. They would feel Diana's presence all over again. They always do. Camilla's journey into royal life was never gentle. She entered as the other woman, the name behind whispers that tore through a marriage. Diana once spoke words that echoed through generations. There were 3 of us in this marriage. And no matter how time has passed, those words still linger in the minds of millions. Even now, as Queen Consort, Camilla carries that history like a silent burden. She's earned respect, sure, but affection, that's harder to win. And seeing Catherine, young, adored, glowing in Diana's tiara, that may have felt like a wound being reopened, without anyone saying a single word. Because here's the truth behind palace protocol. Queen Elizabeth II left behind a collection of priceless jewels. Camilla received many, but the lover's knot wasn't among them. That tiara was passed on to Catherine, and in royal tradition, once a tiara is given, it stays with its new wearer for life. So when Camilla saw Catherine step into the ballroom that night, the message was clear. This piece, this legacy, this love was never meant for her. Not in the past, not in the future, not ever. And that understanding likely pierced deeper than anyone could see. Because when Catherine wears that tiara, people don't just see a princess. They see Diana. They remember her kindness, her style, her silent strength. Catherine, in that moment, isn't just wearing a crown. She's wearing a connection to a woman the world still mourns, still admires, still loves. Camilla wears royal jewels, too. But what Catherine wears is different. She wears a story, one that still holds the heart of a nation. And on that unforgettable night in June, the sparkle in the room wasn't just light bouncing off diamonds. It was memory, legacy, and a quiet reminder that some crowns can never truly be replaced. So how did this iconic tiara end up on Catherine's head, and what secret decision made it possible? Keep watching. When the crown chose its keeper. The date was September 8, 2022, the day the world paused as Queen Elizabeth II passed away peacefully at Balmoral. A seismic moment in British history, yet behind palace doors. Another quiet transition was already underway, the careful division of the Queen's personal jewelry collection. As royal tradition dictates, the newly crowned Queen Consort Camilla was granted the privilege of choosing first, a rule guided strictly by hierarchy, not favoritism. Most assumed her choice would be obvious, the lover's knot. Tiara, once Diana's most cherished piece and arguably the most emotionally charged jewel in the entire royal vault. But something unexpected happened. Camilla didn't claim it. Instead, that iconic tiara, the one associated with heartbreak, elegance, and resilience, landed in the hands of Princess Catherine. And inside palace walls, that decision sent a ripple through centuries of custom. No one saw it coming. According to royal insiders, it wasn't a matter of oversight. It was deliberate. Some believe Queen Elizabeth herself, in one of her final personal acts, had already assigned it to Catherine, perhaps as a quiet tribute to Princess Diana, or a nod to the bond Elizabeth shared with her granddaughter-in-law. Their connection was never paraded in public, but it was there, solid, respectful, and genuine. Others whisper that the tiara had been promised to Catherine long before Camilla ever had the chance to choose. Whatever the truth, the result was permanent. Once a royal tiara is gifted, it remains with that woman for life. It can't be loaned, requested, or swapped. It is hers, and only hers. So when Catherine stepped out at Buckingham Palace in June 2025, wearing the lover's knot at a state banquet brimming with cameras, world leaders, and international press, it wasn't just a fashion moment. It was history unfolding. The images exploded online. Social media lit up with admiration. Many said Catherine looked like a mirror of Diana. Others went further, calling it a sign, as though the crown itself had chosen its next guardian. It didn't matter that Camilla was queen consort standing beside the king. All eyes, all emotion, all legacy rested on Catherine. Camilla must have felt it, even though she later appeared at another royal event wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a historic piece once adored by Queen Elizabeth herself. It didn't land the way she likely hoped. It sparkled, yes. It carried weight. But it didn't spark conversation. The magic simply wasn't there. The moment belonged to someone else. Because Catherine, without uttering a single word, had become something more than a future queen. She had become a living symbol of memory, continuity, and heart. Diana's story didn't end. It moved forward, through the tiara, through Catherine, and through a feeling that the public can't explain, but deeply recognizes. And for Camilla, despite her rank and crown, the lover's knot became a symbol of something she could never reach. Not in legacy, not in memory, and not in the hearts of the people. Now, let's uncover how deep this power shift runs. Can status ever outrank legacy? Stay connected, because this history runs deeper. When symbols speak louder than power. It was supposed to be a moment of shared grandeur. The royal family gathered under the golden glow of Buckingham Palace for a state banquet brimming with power, poise, and international eyes. Queen Camilla, perfectly styled in regal fashion, stood where tradition said she should, at the top beside the king, crowned and confident. Her tiara gleamed, her gown flawless, every detail designed to declare authority. But across the hall stood Princess Catherine, and in that silent space between them, everything shifted. Catherine didn't command attention. She didn't need to. The lover's knot, tiara, once the jewel most associated with Princess Diana, now sat on her head. And somehow, without speaking, without trying, she became the center of gravity in the room. Conversations hushed, glances lingered, emotions surfaced. A wave moved through the banquet, not just of admiration, but connection. This wasn't about fashion. This was about feeling. Catherine's presence stirred something ancient in the monarchy. She wasn't just wearing diamonds. She was wearing memory. The tiara, once wrapped around Diana's story, now rested on a woman the public already embraced with open arms. Camilla, though standing closer to the throne, stood further from the people's hearts. It was a comparison too loud to ignore. Camilla's journey into the royal family had been long, complicated, and paved with controversy. She had endured the glare of public judgment, faced down years of resentment, and eventually earned her crown. But affection, that immediate, effortless affection Catherine receives, remained out of reach. And on this night, it showed. Even as Camilla's jewels sparkled, they didn't strike a chord. There was no collective gasp, No emotional reaction, no viral moment. Her appearance was polished, yes, but it didn't carry meaning, not the kind that makes history stir or headlines swell. Not the kind that Diana's tiara carried when Catherine wore it. In the royal world, tiaras are more than ornaments. They are appointments. Granted, never borrowed. Once assigned by the monarch, they are permanent. They signal status, yes, but more than that, they speak to legacy. Only married royal women may wear them, only after 5 p.m., and only at formal occasions. When Catherine stepped out in Diana's tiara, she wasn't just attending a dinner. She was stepping into the full weight of royal tradition. For Camilla, that moment was out of reach the day the lover's knot was passed to Catherine. That door had closed, quietly but permanently. She could never wear it, never request it, never claim its story as her own. That chapter had already been assigned not by rank or effort, but by something deeper: sentiment. And though Camilla had hoped this evening might reframe her legacy, it did the opposite. Her presence, grand as it was, only magnified the emotional pull toward Catherine. The public's response was immediate, almost instinctual. Catherine was the future. Camilla stood dressed in history, but Catherine embodied it. That's the paradox of royal life. Power can be given, but love must be earned. And on this night, love had already chosen. The crown sat on Camilla's head, but the tiara, the story, rested with Catherine. But what made Catherine quietly capture the nation's heart without even trying? Stay tuned, because the answer changes everything. Where the crown shines and where the heart belongs. It's easy to mistake power for affection and titles for love, but inside the walls of Buckingham Palace and across the hearts of millions watching from afar, that difference has never been clearer than it was on the night of June 2025. Queen Camilla stood where duty placed her, beside the king, robed in status and tradition. Yet something invisible lingered in the air, a quiet current, moving not toward the crown she wore, but to the woman standing just steps away. Princess Catherine. And it wasn't because Catherine tried to command the moment. She didn't need to. She simply arrived, dressed with grace and poise, wearing the lover's knot tiara. And the room, the audience, the headlines, all followed her. To many, that tiara is just an exquisite heirloom. But to those who remember, it's so much more. It carries the weight of Princess Diana's memory, her pain, her poise, her fight to be seen in a world that often tried to silence her. That tiara had been her companion during some of her most powerful public moments. And now, resting quietly on Catherine's head, it didn't lose meaning. It gained more. It wasn't just that the diamonds glittered. It was what they triggered. People didn't just see Catherine, they felt her. In her calm, in her humility, in her steady presence through pressure, they saw something hauntingly familiar. They saw a quiet strength that didn't need to speak loudly to be heard. A warmth that didn't ask for attention, but held it anyway. Catherine didn't chase Diana's legacy, but somehow it embraced her. Every charity visit, every kind gesture, every composed appearance in the face of personal strain, those small moments became bricks in the bridge that now connects her to the public. She never needed a grand statement, just consistency, just authenticity. And little by little she won not only their respect, but their hearts. Camilla's path was different. She followed the rules, wore the right clothes, said the right things. She supported the king. She stood tall. She fulfilled her duties. But something always lingered just out of reach. That emotional spark. That feeling. That moment when a royal doesn't just wear the crown, but becomes part of the people. And that gap became undeniable the moment Catherine appeared in Diana's tiara. That night, something unspoken shifted. The tiara no longer belonged to just the past. It now spoke to the present, to Catherine's presence, to the connection she held without even asking for it. The crown may sit on Camilla's head, but the affection, the feeling that moves a nation, wrapped itself around Catherine like a second skin. The lover's knot stopped being just an object. It became a mirror, reflecting the truth about where the public's heart truly rests. And somewhere inside palace walls, a quiet decision had already been made. The throne could name a queen, but it couldn't choose the people's favorite. That choice had been made long before the tiara ever left its box. And then, a silent choice inside the palace reshaped everything. So who truly holds the crown? Stay glued to find out. When one tiara changed everything. Before it became the centerpiece of whispers and comparisons in today's royal spotlight, the lover's knot tiara already carried a weight heavier than diamonds. Crafted in 1914 for Queen Mary, passed to Queen Elizabeth II and then gifted to Princess Diana as a wedding present in 1981. The tiara's story reads like a royal diary, filled with hope, heartbreak, and resilience. Diana wore it often through triumph and turmoil. Whether dazzling at state banquets or enduring cold stares during public breakdowns, that tiara never left her side. It shimmered brilliantly on her head, even when everything else around her seemed to be falling apart. And in that way, it stopped being just a royal accessory. It became something else. It became hers, a shield of silent dignity. Then, following Diana's tragic death in 1997, the tiara vanished. For nearly 2 decades, it stayed hidden, too sacred, too emotional, too soon. That changed in 2015 when Princess Catherine stepped into a formal reception wearing the very same piece. It wasn't Camilla. It wasn't even expected. Yet, when the public saw Catherine walk into the room with Diana's beloved tiara once again catching the light, a hush fell. Not only in the palace halls but across television screens, front pages, and social media feeds around the world. That moment became more than style. It became a memory. Because Catherine didn't just wear it well, she wore it naturally. She didn't evoke Diana intentionally, but she didn't need to. The posture, the grace, the quiet strength, it was all there. It wasn't mimicry. It was something deeper. The tiara seemed to recognize her, as if it had been waiting. Which is exactly why, according to palace insiders, that moment was cut for Queen Camilla. When Queen Elizabeth II passed away in September 2022, her immense collection of heirlooms, crowns, brooches, rings, and tiaras, had to be divided. Tradition dictated that Camilla, now Queen Consort, had first pick. Everyone expected her to take the lover's knot, the piece with the most public history and emotional weight. But she didn't. The tiara went to Catherine. Why? Some say Queen Elizabeth herself made the decision long ago, a personal choice guided not by protocol but by legacy. Others believe King Charles quietly supported the move, perhaps viewing it as a tribute to Diana through the woman now poised to be queen. Whatever the case, one thing is certain, it wasn't about sparkle, it was about symbolism. Camilla inherited plenty: historic jewels, grand tiaras, and priceless pieces, but none with the emotional currency of Diana's tiara. That distinction went to Catherine, and with it, the warmth of public sentiment. When Catherine wore the lover's knot again in June 2025 at a Buckingham Palace state banquet, the world noticed. The press was flooded with headlines. Social media erupted with side-by-side images of Diana and Catherine. Comments called her the People's Princess 2.0 and even Queen of Hearts reborn. That tiara became more than jewelry. It became a verdict. Camilla, also dressed in finery that night, faded into the background. Her own tiara sparkled, yes, but it didn't stir. It didn't move people. All eyes, all emotion, turned toward Catherine. And for Camilla, who had waited decades to wear the crown, it felt like history repeating itself. Only this time, quieter, sharper, and with a deeper sting. Because even in silence, some tiaras speak. And this one? It didn't just speak, it chose. And how did one tiara silently choose its queen, rewriting royal history without a word? You won't want to miss this. The tiara that chose its own queen. It was the evening of a grand state banquet at Buckingham Palace, but something in the air felt strangely personal. As Princess Catherine stepped into view, every detail seemed effortless. She didn't chase attention, but it found her. She didn't raise her voice, yet the room somehow listened. And then there it was, resting quietly on her head, Diana's lover's knot tiara. That one image stopped time. The diamonds glittered, but what truly caught the eye was what they symbolized. For many watching, across velvet-lined walls and behind flickering screens, it didn't feel like Catherine was wearing royal jewelry. It felt like she was continuing a story that had never really ended. The soft posture, the graceful calm, the echoes of Princess Diana, unspoken but deeply felt. There were no rehearsed gestures, no forced resemblance. And still people began comparing photos of Diana and Catherine within minutes. It wasn't about looks, it was about presence, the same quiet strength, the same ability to walk into a room and make people believe in something again. It wasn't just memory, it was recognition. Camilla, too, arrived that night, regal, poised, and crowned in history. She wore a different tiara, an impressive one once loved by Queen Elizabeth. Her gown shimmered under the lights, her smile was perfectly timed. But the crowd's reaction told a different story. It wasn't that Camilla wasn't seen, it's that she wasn't felt. Because some tiaras speak louder than others, and that night, one of them whispered something deeply familiar. The lover's knot didn't just sparkle, it stirred. It stirred emotions long buried, reignited loyalties, and reopened comparisons that never fully closed. And in that spotlight, Catherine didn't outshine anyone. She simply fit. What made it harder for Camilla was knowing this wasn't sudden. It had been building, quietly, for years. From the first moment Kate Middleton entered royal life in the early 2000s, Camilla had felt it. That quiet storm of change. Kate came without royal blood, no noble titles, no long history, and yet the public wrapped their arms around her, with warmth, with trust, with ease. Camilla, on the other hand, had earned every inch of her acceptance. She had endured headlines that cut deep, whispers that followed her into every room. She had waded through decades of discomfort to become queen consort. And then came Catherine, carrying no crown, yet commanding the kind of love Camilla had never quite reached. And when that tiara resurfaced, now resting on a new head, all of those feelings came rushing back. Not just about jewelry, but about legacy, about belonging, about the quiet truth that in the monarchy, some crowns choose their wearers. So, what do you think? Should the lover's knot tiara truly rest with Catherine, or was it meant for someone else? We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more royal story.